Well, hello everybody. It's my first attempt at a live stream random thoughts type of a video blog. I just thought it would be something I'd different people out there who are interested in connecting with other people out there. This morning at 10 o'clock, I started off my first set of music lessons virtually using Skype or FaceTime. And I think maybe some of my students are going to be using Hangouts. And that's really weird. It's not just a matter, like when I'm teaching anybody, there's the challenge of figuring out what is the most important thing to say about what they're doing musically that will help move them to the next step. So I have to kind of understand, what are they missing? What do they not quite get in their performance? And what is the most critical thing to make a difference, right? It's kind of subtle. When you're just new musicians, it's less of a big deal because you might be like, you just have to really focus on staying in time. Just keep it on the beat. And for other musicians who have been around and been playing a lot longer, it might be a little bit more like a finger position, or how they pronounce a certain vowel if it's singing lessons or whatever. Anyway, with my first set of virtual music lessons today with some drummer kids, that was really hard because I couldn't necessarily, with the delay in the buffering of the internet, I couldn't always tell if it was a timing issue that they were having trouble with or whether it was my internet. Anyway, it was a little easier to do keyboard, but sometimes I felt like my students weren't listening or couldn't hear me when I was like, oh, make sure you use the middle finger on that note, middle finger, and they'd already moved on. It's a little bit easier when you're right there in person to be able to talk about which hand to use, which fingers to use, or whatever. So that was kind of a bit of an exercise in frustration. But anyway, I'm thankful that I have that opportunity. And that's kind of one of the things that I think I'm wanting to talk about today is we live in a really neat time. We're all kind of, when what I want to say, and starting when the connections that you have with people, there's a bit of fear. We go for a walk on the street and you can see in people's eyes, well, we don't want to get too close in case they have it. And someone just come over to me to say something and you're getting a little closer, a little too close. I mean, step back, which is weird. And another thing that we have to do when we survive right now in this era is figure out how do we come up with finances? How do we continue to pay for our internet and our food? The things that we use to kind of entertain us in the boring parts. Fortunately for me, a lot of my income is pretty stable right now. If the parents who are paying for music lessons suddenly find that they're not working and so they don't have the money to put their kids in music lessons, then that'll be a problem. As long as I can give music lessons virtually. And so now we've come full circle to this whole thing. It's kind of weird to give music lessons virtually. I'm wondering what ways are other people surviving? I guess you could give yoga. It'd be possible to give yoga lessons to people virtually. And it'd be possible to there are other things like that are social that can happen virtually, I guess. But outside of their homes and work, sometimes in between science and religion. And I don't think that's true. I mean, obviously, because I like to think of myself as a scientist. I subscribe to the notion that we can use a scientific method to know things. That's how it is that we're using computers. And that's how it is that we have people going to space or whatever. It's because of scientific method. I believe that's a viable and important way to know things, but it might not be the only way to know everything. One of the things I love about Jordan Peterson is his appealing to history and tradition by saying, lots of things that were figured out for thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of years before us that were handed down as stories. And if we look at those stories and we don't just look at them through modern eyes, but we look at them through, insightful eyes that recognize there's metaphor be involved here. And we say, what is really being said? What can we glean from this story about the nature of reality and how people interact with one another? And what are the archetypes that make themselves known in the world as we interact with other people and so on? Those are all important things we can know and we can learn from history. And I really hope that that's something that people will eventually figure out, that not to just throw the baby out with the bathwater where it comes to religion. Really kind of consider whether or not there's something true about the nature of faith and whether it might play an important part in being a complete human being. As it is kind of hopeless to think that there's nothing to life but just the physical. Deep inside me, I have a need for there to be more than that, for there to be meaning in life. Anyway, I see that there's been one or two people coming in, but no one's saying hi in the comments. But this is just my first try, and I don't know whether it's even that interesting or useful to anybody. But I hope that if this is something that you would like to see more of, you want to have chats with me virtually like this, I'd love to hear from you and talk about things that might be important to both of us. Connect with one another in a real way. Anyway, I guess that's all I'll say for today.